Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hope you all had a great weekend. Happy Monday to you. And congrats to the hodlers. Let's do a quick analysis of what happened here over the weekend. All right. I pulled this into the model, and we're at 123.395. Closed yesterday on my data feed, 123.523. Somewhere between there, though, or around here, actually. On the 5th yesterday, we did get up to 125. So congrats. That was an all-time high, although I guess based on the August number, $123,442. Sorry. Yeah. We did close above it on my metric, 123,523. So at least on the daily close, we did. Still nothing to write home about, in my opinion. Right on trend, just a little bit above it now, pulling that black line ever higher. Let's also look at what this means sort of relative to the trend. This is where I think this chart really shows its prowess. Bitcoin is such a quickly growing asset that's quickly being adopted around the world, quickly ever faster developing in security and availability, that even though we might be at or near all-time highs from a month and a half ago, if you look at the way that this plays out around the power trend, and if you put some faith in the power trend, that's a bad word maybe in Bitcoin, but you don't have to trust. You need to verify for sure. But if you understand that the math means something, even though we're at all-time highs, we're still very much on trend and even a little bit below prior performance, right? For the cycle. Okay, so as you see here, let's just make it easy. We've passed all these benchmarks. 60th, now we're at the 70th, 80th, 90th percentile. Up or down over the trend. 70th percentile is just 1.1x the trend at the time. Notice we're below the 7. All right, see it? We're just below it right now. The 7 is 127K. We haven't closed above there. But if you look back to the start of this year, end of last year, Trump mania, as he's shitcoining himself to a few more $1 billion in wealth, we were a bit above the 7, right? Which means the 70th percentile, getting somewhere around maybe the 75th percentile, close to the 80th. So this cycle, relatively speaking, we're actually not even at a relative high, because this power curve is so strong, right? Grows $100 a day. Okay. More than that, really. Slightly. $100 a day. And you only have to go back, a year ago to see the power curve 40%, 43% lower than it is today. Okay, so at the moment, the power curve increases about 42% a year. It's going to step down as time goes on. So I continue to have a lot of Again, faith might be the wrong word, but just comfort in this chart. And if you want to take away the Maalox moments, I think this can help you do it. Very stable growth here. All right. Big bump up to the trend line at the start of last year with the ETF approval, which was a 10-year in the waiting process. But still, nothing new under the sun when it comes to the adoption of Bitcoin. Also, things don't really change, especially when you're near the trend. Okay, so same thing, go out to the end of the year, we assume 125K trend, 250K on the 9. And by the way, just because we haven't gotten to the 7 again doesn't, like, to be clear, I'm not saying for sure we'll get to the 7, for sure we'll get to the 8 or the 9. But these are the relative bands of strength. And we've gotten there every prior 4-year boom. So as you know, I've said again and again and again, I am not going to discount a 4-year boom happening this time until it doesn't happen. I still don't see a reason why to do that. So let's see. Let's look at the gold analysis now. All right, remember we're very, very low in terms of gold. Okay, not at the 10th, not at the 20th. We hit the 30th at the end of the month. All right, look at that. 30 ounces of gold per Bitcoin. That was the 30th percentile, or 0.5x the trend, which is here. So still way, way low with gold booming. Then try to help us with this chart again. I switched it into dollars because I thought this was a good idea. It does not mean we go back to the 9 in this chart. We could. But if we go back to the 9, we get a much more aggressive Bitcoin price because this really reflects the longer term stagnation of gold relative to the dollar, relative to Bitcoin, which gold is breaking out of now. So due to gold's strength, it's possible, it's very possible we don't get to the 9 here, especially considering the dollar chart looks like half these values, right? But it's still interesting to see. Remember, as I'm projecting out now, I'm just doing a very simple $4,000 gold price. That's how these dollar terms will project out. So some people were saying it's harder to see the ounces. So you move from ounces into dollars just to show you sort of the difference at $4,000 gold. Probably too bullish. Probably too bullish. Everything's basically double the dollar term, the dollar denomination. Good morning, Pepe. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I enjoy doing it. Keeps me sane. Next one is the old PSR. Let's see how this goes. We're getting hotter here. All right. So prices here. I'll keep it on linear. But we have a log on the ratio, which is market cap to miner revenue. Miner revenue calculated as a trailing 12-month figure. All right, so let's take off some of the noise. Actually, I didn't have the 100th here. I keep forgetting to put it back. Let's take out the 10th, 20th, 30th, 40th, 50th, 60th percentile. And here, sort of the opposite of the gold chart, we're running a little bit hotter now. Now we're above the 8. Sorry, now we're above this. We have been above the 8, but now we're above the 7. So this chart, based on prior trends, shows us we're maybe a little bit hot. Certainly not above the 9, which we have been above every single top. So getting above the 9, the 90th percentile, which is 2.5x. The trend, this is confusing because it's multiple on multiple, but actual PSR value as of the moment, it's that black B, 146. So Bitcoin network is 146 times larger than miner revenue. It grows. Just like everything else, it's growing, you know, in a power curve. 70% is still pretty good. It's not amazing like this one, 96, or this one, 95. But it still shows what's happening. And probably here as well, I didn't think about it, but I should switch these estimates into dollars, because you'll get a you should get a slightly less bullish number, actually, if we hit the 9 by the end of the year compared to this. Okay, because we're just higher as we are. So that would make sense, actually, because I know people have trouble digesting things that aren't dollars, just like with the gold. Like, I should do something like this where I switch into dollars so you can see it. Anyway, the point is, this one's, yeah, it's been running a bit hot. Doesn't mean it can't explode above the 9. It's done that every prior cycle. And it would suggest slightly lower price as a top above the 9. Anyway. I know the dollar isn't you know, the end all be all. But of course, we have a government shutdown right now, I believe, unless they've changed the news. I don't even know. In the US. Doesn't really matter what they say politically. This is going to keep getting higher and higher and higher. And to be sort of gasoline on the fire, this green line or this green shaded area could go up. All right. It's not going up yet, even with that slight drop in interest rates. Okay, it's a marginal thing, but there's plenty of gasoline to pour on the fire of excess debt, excess leverage, more money printing. Again, not necessarily something I really hope for. I know a lot of other people do when they make sort of projections of Bitcoin. I also think it's kind of pointless to speculate too much, because they're all going up in fiat terms, down in Bitcoin terms. I'm sure you guys have seen the price of the iPhone back in 2011. It was like 50 Bitcoins. Now it's 0.007 or something. That is one of the best tables, actually. Each iPhone generation gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper in Bitcoin terms. So let me show you what I mean here another way. Sorry, pulling these charts up slow today. This chart also kind of, things can be bad for civil liberties and political decisions for a long time, but as bad as it seems, Vietnam War was raging here. Dollar remains the best looking horse in the glue factory. Who's to say we don't have, 50 more years of this, just bouncing around, Fed buying more debt, selling more debt, trying to weirdly manage the balance sheet. And notice, by the way, how it almost seems more organic here, right? You see it bouncing up and down a lot. That's just how the numbers looked. And then really from here, old Alan Greenspan took interest rates down super low. You see it start to smooth out, really started to convey to the markets, we're going to do this, this, this. And then, of course, big crises, and they changed things. This dip again, people that forgot, they put a bunch of, this is the Wall Street bailouts all right here. They took all the Wall Street debt on their books just for a time to bail them out. Then they took it back, the government debt back from the Wall Street banks, and gave them a bunch of guarantees. But if we go here, the old major asset category, let's stick with treasuries. So you take off that power curve, nice beautiful power curve for Bitcoin. You look at the exponential curve of treasuries. You can't even really see where the extrapolation begins and the real data ends, right? Here was silly times. It's log scale, so these are huge changes, right? February 2020, 23 trillion in debt. December 2020, 27, 28 trillion. This goes back, I know I'm shilling the same idea for a long time, but I started my sort of free market Austrian journey right here in the aftermath of the global financial crisis. Luckily, I already had some gold, just because I've said before, started my investing career about 8 years earlier, and just saw that gold was performing very well. It was at its lowest in 20 years before that, around 2000, 2001. But how often I heard from these newsletters, just buy gold, buy gold, buy gold. And of course, gold did well up until about here. Then it went sideways. I also started to hear somewhere around here, even later, maybe, the gold bugs started to blame their weak market on crypto, calling it crypto, of course, not talking about Bitcoin in particular, but they just said crypto was taking all the wealth from the gold bugs. It took them a while to come to that conclusion. But my real point is here, again, a lot of newsletters are just doom and gloomers. A lot of Bitcoin newsletters are doom and gloomers. This is still the most powerful military in the world. Yeah, they have a lot of debt. You can always be a bond vigilante and bet against this, but it's a 98% R squared here from 2008. This trend line starts in 2008. It's hard to bet against that, just as far as what it does. Right? And I would say it's hard to bet against this. It's Bitcoin's power curve and a market cap visualization. Early 2040s is when we're going to start to pass this stuff, and probably even sooner. You know, people will really start to question the value of like denominating things in dollars versus denominating things in sats. Gold 10 years earlier. It is having a run. Sorry. You can see there with that, as we move into the gold trend line from 2008, it's way lower, 10 trillion lower than what gold is valued at right now, which is insane. The base money, which is most economically equivalent to Bitcoin. Trend line is very similar to the treasury market. But we are undervalued here. This is why I don't see this staying this way for long. All right. Roughly 26 trillion. I got counting up base money, and the trend line should be 34. So this is another sign of gasoline on the fire to come. Especially if the president gets his way this year on interest rates, which they usually do before an election season. Fee market, which really should be called the confirmation market, is pretty muted. Let's just look at let's keep that. Just daily fees, all right? Total daily fees that the Bitcoin that miners take in, all right? $21 million in 2017. Even less of a top in 2021. And then this is sort of ordinals, BRC20, JPEGs on Bitcoin. Similar, except for the halving. Halving was the record day, 78 million. But fees are not showing anything elevated, which is another very bullish signal, in my opinion. You know, the only time would be here with this double top in 2021. They're still kind of choppy, right? The daily fee. Then, you know, this didn't really signal anything and the price went down, right? So, but other than that, we've always had a blow off in daily fees. Rounds to 0 million back in 2013 dollars. Let's look at the 30-day. 30 days actually also helpful. And so here again, over 30 days, you get to 350 million. Let's even take off the daily, just so you see. Okay, here, notice. Again, this would be the weird top. End of 2021. Got to 250 million over 30 days in fees for the network. And then this cratered. And if you followed just this as a metric to hold or to lighten up, you could have maybe missed this boom, but you would have been okay a month or two after that. Also, this is unusual. This was unusual. But anyway, the point is, I'd have a real hard time believing that, where we are now, price-wise, has any sort of a signal with a top from the confirmation market. Confirmation market just showing, we're just continuing along. Maybe after American Thanksgiving and grandma decides that she wants some Bitcoin. Or grandma's grandchildren decide. I also realized I should get a gold chart daily. I don't have that actually. I usually just do monthly because it's been so not interesting over the last 10 years. But it's getting more interesting. It's obviously an asset that's pretty relatable to Bitcoin. You guys have any other charts you want to see? I'm pulling up another one in a second here. Tomorrow I will come back with a chart that changes from the native multiple of the price to sales to the expected price at a particular multiple. Maybe I'll pick the multiple like at year end. But I would say this one would dominate. This hasn't steered me wrong so far. Two X the trend is probably alarm territory, especially because we barely went over the 9 in 2021 compared to 2017. We went well over the 9. Good morning, Midwest Picker. John, good morning. Everybody calm after the weekend. Congrats to the hodlers. Sorry for the dead time. As usual, trying to pull up a couple different ones here. I agree with you. Thank you. I'm well. I mean, once we've, like I said, I don't think we've closed above it. Or no, we have closed above it. Actually, we have. So it was here, 123.4. According to my data yesterday, we got 123.5. Even though intraday 125 or whatever it was. But yeah, this is where the strength of this chart comes. Okay, so this is where you can stay calm. Because remember, we still had months, weeks above this 7. We're not even above the 7 yet. All right, so to the 7, presuming we get it quicker than later, we're almost at 150 would take us almost to the 8. And I almost wonder if it'll come quicker or slower, right? Because it's almost easier if we just blow it off. If we blow it off like in a matter of weeks between the 8, 7, 8, 9, like we did here. Here actually took some time. These look like nice little resistance bands. The 8 pushing it down, 9 pushing it down. What do you guys think? You still think we have enough time by December to blow it off? Here's another one. Haven't shown in a while. Total money supply. Only through June, of course. This is very sort of backward looking. Just don't have the data to show you more. But as we talked about, this Fed repo facility, which takes money away from money market funds and actually not necessarily money market funds, but hedge funds that are levering and doing crazy things. As long as the Fed pays them, it's a safer counterparty. So as you can see, numbers 6 and 7. Let's just take all the other money supplies off. These are the hottest forms of money, right? And as you can see, the Fed repo facility has gone down. And number 7 in particular, which is repurchase agreements in the market, goes up. This is hot money. Really, really hot. It's almost 2 trillion, trillion and a half. If you look at no, 2.5 trillion. Yeah. Where it says Fed repos, that's an additional 2.5 trillion on top of the bank reserves that were in the banking system, the main banking assets. This is like base money for non-banks. This was kind of like a QE thing that they did for non-banks here during the silly season. Whatever word I want to say to not get censored too much. And that's gone away now. It's gone away. And this is a very slow moving chart. I only have it from June. Not going to have September's data until probably like December. Late November, probably. You know, this is looking really hot. Again, why subscribe to a newsletter when you can just watch this? Good morning, Logie. Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be fast, and I'm keeping an eye on this. All right, I think fees on a day or on a 30-month day are going to be a big sign of topping here. I know there's a lot of ETFs now. I know there's a lot of treasury companies that can move the Bitcoin price. But I don't know, I'd be very surprised if at the end of all of this we don't have a bump here. If we see no bump, then it's really time to reevaluate the models because it's always happened. Let me show you something. So again, 2 to 3x, I think, is totally achievable. 2 to 3x the multiple by the end of the year. Okay, that's roughly speaking 250 to 375. To me, that seems like pretty good tops. Looks better if we outperform gold compared to where we have been well below trend on gold. Why is this taking so slow to load? Yeah, I've seen that as well. It's a good point. It's crazy. That seems like a floodgate sort of activity, right? Completely worthless instruments, but everybody wants leverage. Goes back to that commodity hedge fund manager Rick Rule I've mentioned. No matter how good you think the government is at printing money, the free market can always do it better. And I think it's a very, very good sign of froth. Correct, yeah. It's that's not happening this cycle. I should where's gold? I should do a chart here with it in dollar terms. You're still, I think even here, so again, the market cap of gold now is lower than the projected because gold has been so weak, right, over the last 15 years. You know, it's possible gold outperforms this trend line. But yeah, that's a 10x. That's a 10x in price, in Bitcoin price to get here. Only maybe a 1.1x in gold price because this trend line is so weak, and because gold's price now. For sure, gold is pulling this line up every day that it remains above it. Yeah, I mean this I show 10 years here where we pass it. 8. But that's at still a pretty muted level. I mean, it's possible that gold sort of stays at the level it is, $4,000 an ounce, and then goes over, in which case it would take probably another 5-6 years. But whatever, I'm not making these too complicated. Good morning, Gio. Long time no see. Hello, Ted. Well, I like simplicity. And if we moon towards the end of the year, start of the next, I think it's high likelihood you're going to see a lot of bankruptcies, Bitcoin treasury companies trying to buy back more stock and get you to buy their stock, or get you to use some convertible instrument, and possibly that leverage is too much, and then we get a flush out again, just like we had here each time. I am. I will speak there. If you're there, let me know. Great town, Amsterdam. So anyway, there's a lot of money here. Going back to this, like, look at the repo, which is number 7, which this is a lot of liquidity that chases. It chases treasuries on the one side, but it chases more risky assets on the other side because most people are doing something with this money that's more risky than a treasury asset. So you see that it was 3.9 million repo market, $4 trillion repo market at the end of 2022. Now with this repo facility going away, that's gone all the way into here, and end of June, we're at 7. And plus the money market fund has gone up too. Where's retail actually? There we go. Retail money market. No, that's retail time deposit. Where's retail money market? There we go. Retail money market. These are probably the most risky, frothy money supplies that there are. And there's a lot of cash there now. So yeah, I think they could be chasing some risky assets. Let me know. Would be great. Great to meet. Have some coffee. You guys think the gold run is over? Or has it still got legs? Bitcoin remains super undervalued in terms of gold, even though it's still 30 gold ounces to buy one Bitcoin. Peter Schiff despises this chart. I predict we never get back to this level. I think this is a pretty safe prediction. 10 ounces of gold per Bitcoin. We were only there back in the old Peter Zion says Bitcoin $17,000 overvalued at $16,000. 10 ounces of gold. That's an extreme low. This is below the 10%. I don't think we go back there again. ever. I mean, we're not going back to an ounce. Sorry, with this new chart, it kind of is annoying. Not going back to an ounce of gold. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they understand it yet, how that chart looks, and how they just get worse and worse and worse. Even though this is a very strong chart for gold, it's just you're still on an actual level 2.5, 3.5 times worse now than you were in 2022. Yeah, it would be good to do silver, I guess, in this chart too. Can't get this one chart to pull up. Mm. Interesting. Yeah, they have branches here in the Baltics, or at least they used to. I think they're still here. Hello, City. That's one reason, yeah. But as I always say, 95% of what you see here is the growth of Bitcoin's adoption itself. It's volatile in the daily, but over the long term, you get this nice power trend line that just has a tremendous consistency actually with time. It's simply a function of time. So it's literally only a matter of time for the price of Bitcoin to go up and to reflect more adoption. So that's sort of what I keep saying is 90% of what you see here is just the adoption of Bitcoin. It's not really what the Fed is doing next week. That affects it, but not it. You know, this curve has been this way since 2016 on this same level. God, I got to rework my. Actually, try. something else here. See if I can get this chart to go. By the way, Gio, did you read any reason why? Norway, Denmark, Sweden still going for this cashless society, I know. In terms of Bitcoin, you mean? Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for stopping by. My good old buddy. He's a great dude. Very great dude. Somehow the Portuguese speakers listen to him, though. I can't figure it out. Yeah, I got you. That makes sense. You know, in some level, the Norge Bank is still like one of the most powerful. I don't know how to say it. They're very powerful institution because it's just such a huge balance sheet that actually produces wealth other than just buying debt. It's an interesting entity. Yep. I agree with you. It's the big age of TikTok, disinformation, spamming. I don't want to speak too highly of some of these charts, but 99% of the people have never even heard of the power law. Probably, you know, I remember, I don't know if I told this story before, but you guys remember the 10-year anniversary of Bitcoin. All right, so this is 2019, January 3rd. BitMEX did a one-page spread in the Times. They bought it, and they wanted the first page. You know, it's a high rolling exchange. So they bought literally the whole first page of the Times to do a spread on Bitcoin. You know, some information pieces, also a price chart. And I talked to the guy who ran that, and he said that I guess whatever's the regulator, whatever the equivalent to the FCC in Britain, the regulator prohibit them to put a log chart of Bitcoin, right, like this, in log scale, because they didn't think that the public would understand what a log scale meant, and it was too, you know, it was just too much. So it's a sad, probably, admission of, I mean, they might be right, but they were afraid that showing the Bitcoin price in log scale would be too powerful, too, just too much for the public, which is insane. But that's what they said. So yeah, that's a that's a good way to put it. Talking about celebrities. Good morning, Fernando. Thank you very much. A different Fernando, for those that are unclear. That's great to hear. Doing it for myself as well. Totally. Strength in numbers, right? Strength in statistics. Another thing, if you go back to this, and this is even linear scale. This isn't even in logs, our crazy log scale. This is just, no one's going to tell me that this money supply is like going to collapse or something. This is why I am an inflationist. I'm not a deflationist like Robert Prechter and some of these sort of crazy guys. Like, it's just clear that the system has to inflate, otherwise it would collapse. So it makes sense to own, inflation resistant assets. I'll have to check it out. When was his timeline? Did we talk about this before? We talked about this before. You were giving me the chat GPT. Sorry, my short-term memory is just somehow gone. We talked about this, right? When was his timeline? You were giving me his thesis over ChatGPT, right? I know which chart I need to show now. I need to show the exponential chart because it doesn't make sense otherwise. Just no way. It's just insanity. Clickbait. Hold on. Pulling it up. I think I have a technical slowdown here in my charts because I tried to load up this spreadsheet. Hold on. It seems I slowed my system way down trying to open up an old spreadsheet, and now can't get this chart open. Just give me a second. But anyway, if we look out on the power curve, all right, this goes out to 2050. My max is 23 million. 23 million, which is an insanely good price, right? At 100K, 125K Bitcoin at the moment. But he's graphing, first of all, he's graphing an exponential, which it doesn't move in. And if I could show you, you guys know the chart. I've shown it a lot. What is going on? My chart engine has frozen. Sorry, I don't want to restart it because I've never done it before. doing a stream. I think I might break it. Let's see if there is a exponential trading view. Are we back to poems? We haven't done that in a while. So this is I'm seeing it's also in the movie 13 Hours. All the gods, all the heavens, all the worlds are within us. They are magnified dreams, and dreams are manifestations in image form of the energies of the body in conflict with each other. That is what myth is. Myth is manifestation in symbolic images, in metaphorical images. Yeah, and it absolutely will. I'm sorry, guys. I'm locked on these charts. Apparently, can't pull up any others. But so this is getting close to 40 trillion. It's the U.S. M3, and if you added all the other broad money supplies, you get 145, 140. Still working on the broad money, but those things are going up at 7, 8, 9% a year consistently. So Bitcoin's 42% a year at the moment. Seems to make sense. Let me show you a couple bond yields while I try to reset my chart. Very exciting. Where is Germany? So I did see this, and I wanted to try to maybe correlate it. There is a difference. There is a difference in what's happening with Bitcoin now. Yeah, remind me. Who's that again? I do know Scott Horton. Not a fan at all. Thrown many absurd quotes his way about Eastern Europe. His wife is Ukrainian, by the way, and gave an interview in March of 2022 when Ukraine was invaded, which was totally like pro Ukraine, how Ukraine is not Russia. Ukraine has always looked towards the, the West, towards Europe. And then he just gets on and says all this pro Putin Kremlin propaganda. Not a fan. So a lot of people are wondering, right, if the bond bubble has popped. And I think it's possible that it has. Now, usually inflation assets still go up when interest rates go up. So that's a good thing, I guess. But if you look at, say, this, all right, this is German yields. They're still elevated from 2020 levels. Japan, elevated from 2020 levels. Poland, this is not a very long chart of Poland, but here's the Poland 10-year, elevated from 2020 levels. And sterling, quite elevated from 2020 levels. This is a new trend. I thought about trying to put this into context because Bitcoin has not been through a cycle like this, which is kind of interesting, right? All these yields going up. Let me show you the US 10-year. All right, here's US 10-year, much longer. So gold is not necessarily a bad sign. When bond yields go up, bond investors want safer assets. And gold peaked here, right? Like precisely here, actually here. I think it was January of 80. But relative to where we've been, right, this is a different environment. Which also, by the way, my general thesis is this is why it's so hard for like populism right now. Populism is very anti-liberalism, look at what happened at the end of the Soviet Union. Bonds just keeps going down, down, down. Down. This is only start from 2007, but so I do need to get all these yields in a chart and show that versus the Bitcoin price because it's going to be interesting. This is, I don't know if it's really going to affect this cycle. I tend to think not. But in the future, that could affect Bitcoin more. But I don't think now. Well, good charting is kind of cheating, I think, in some ways. Yeah, I'll check them for sure. Let me, as I show you this, let me restart this. I want to get back to your guys' point about the $1 billion Bitcoin. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Yeah, it seems kind of scary. Again, trying to do a little bit of nuance here because obviously, Estonia has been quite successful with theirs. But Estonia is a small government and can't really be too tyrannical. You guys could be more tyrannical there. My co-host, my new co-host on my show when we talk, we haven't done an actual podcast in over a month now, but he's really into privacy. It's Halo Privacy is his company. And, every flight that you get on in the U.S. now, you do the facial ID. Going through TSA, you do facial ID, and you can opt out of both of them. He has always opted out of both of them, like every flight. He's done like 60 flights this year, and he's opted out of all of them. Opted out of the facial ID. But at some point, and this is not a good thing. I'm not trying to sound like I'm resigned over this, but yeah, the matrix is getting pretty strong. I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, I don't want to just say it's the end of the world because, again, Estonia has had a digital ID since the 90s. And it seems to work out pretty well for them. Let's go back to our $1 billion Bitcoin from from Peter Dunworth. All right. I'll have to talk to Danny about this. All right, so here's the old power versus exponential. Okay, these are two trends. Exponential is number one, power is number two. There's just no doubt in my mind, even though this is a pretty good R squared, right? 86%. Okay, so 86% of the variance around the green line would be better than going around the average Bitcoin price, right? 86% better, 86% less variance price around the green line than around the all-time average. But all-time average doesn't really work that well in log space. So anyway, you got to look at other trends. Power trend, clearly much better. Clearly much better. But then to show the absurdity of the projection, all right, we can go out to 20. I think we'll get there in this chart, right? Yeah, we do. We get there already here. Okay, so 10 years. So what's his timeline? Did anybody watch it on What Bitcoin Did? Did he say? It's just no way. Thank you, Satoto. And again, even if I wanted Bitcoin to go that high, it's just not, the system isn't set up for it right now. So if we take a look at Fedwire, shown you guys this many times. All right, Fedwire is, as of August, which is the last data that I saw, 145 times larger than Bitcoin in value transferred across the network. So we're on the right trend. This black line going down is a good thing. And if you look at Bitcoin transfer value, we're not even to the previous all-time high, 18 trillion. By the way, this always hit a top two, or was a little bit after the top. This is different. I would say this one weirdly kind of suggests we might have a while to go, right? Before blow off. Because it's not like running flat and then blow off. It's not running sort of flat and then blow off. It's really pretty low since the halving, which was here. Digital IDs, yeah, I've seen it. I remember watching this like with college friends in whatever 2001 or 2, and the funniest part, they were trying to scan his new eyeballs in the in the bathtub. I still remember that. He's laying in the bathtub with his bandaged eyes of his new eyeballs, and those little spider things that would scan the eyeballs, like, gets halfway out the door with his mechanical spider leg, and then hears the bubble in the bathtub, and then they all run back in and they pull the bandage off and scan his eye. You're just laughing at how absurd that looked. Would be pretty wild if that actually came true. This is like the most ridiculous scene. What's OF? Yeah. Obviously the most draconian part of that movie. Where's China at 10-year? I wanted to show that too. Less market sentiments here, but China sort of still going down in the old bond yields. And I think Switzerland's actually still going down. Yeah. So 10-year is like really very important yield, benchmark yield for a lot of pricing, a lot of instruments. Switzerland's going down. But other than that, and China's like kind of communist society down. But other than that, everyone is popped. Since 2020. Trump really wants this down. But again, in terms of Bitcoin, to me, this is a minor factor for now. It's still the price action itself is more important. What happens with Bitcoin? It's the power curve itself. Oh, thanks. I guess that's a good thing that I don't even know the abbreviation. Is it really that popular? I mean, I've heard the jokes, but yeah. That's why I stick to the charts, guys. What about India? Is it India 10-year? Also low. Although in absolute terms, still quite high. 6.5%. Higher than Poland, even. And Italy. Big economy, but I guess the purest signal would be the dollar. Like no one could imagine interest rates going back to 10%, even 10%, right? With all the variable rate loans out there. It could happen. But here's the other weird thing, right? And this is why I also don't buy into a lot of the hype of, like hyper Bitcoinization tomorrow. Like, if bond yields go back high, that is a self-correcting mechanism, right? This pricked the gold bubble when bond yields top, or at least in this case, when bond yields topped, it pricked the sort of inflation bubble and reinstilled confidence in the dollar. And then it was time to go long other assets. You could actually still go long bonds too, but because these are bonds getting more expensive, now bonds getting cheaper. So it also would beg the question, again, this is just general philosophizing, I haven't really thought about it too much, but say in 10, 20 years when Bitcoin becomes super strong compared to all the other assets, you also have bond yields finally getting to their tops again, like the super cycle was completed. Does Bitcoin replace everything at that point, or is there maybe some more interest now in buying some fiat shitcoins because they're yielding so much? It's not just you. It's not just you. I'm in the same boat. I'll check this, Gio. Yeah. But here's what I worry about, ETJ, is remember, here was a big turning point in liberalism. Sorry, here actually was a big turning point in liberalism, right? This is a friendly debt world. I used to talk about this a lot, right? Like interest rates coming down, it's easier to take debt. This is not a good chart to show, but not really that one either, a little bit. Interest rates were coming down all over the world. Now, if they're going to stay elevated, and we want sort of peace and return to democracies, it seems like we're really just in this turbulent, populist, sort of weird time. Definitely not calm, like you said. Definitely not calm. Let's do Google search trends Bitcoin. I rarely look at these. In fact, you guys use these a lot. This isn't even that long. Past 2004 to present. Yeah. No, I think MP is right, Gio. It seems lower, doesn't it? 2017 was wild. All right, let's look at their discussion. Relative to the highest point. Peak popularity 100, 50, half as popular. So this is pretty wild. 80% discount in popularity compared to 2017. To be fair, there was also a discount of 30% in spring 2021. Also could be a sign of Bitcoin's, what's the word? Maturity, maybe? I guess these are kind of valuable, aren't they? I never look at these. Also, ChatGPT. Is ChatGPT changing this chart? Maybe. I agree with you. I agree with you. Is Google going to show me ChatGPT search trends? Let me just ask in the chart. All right, I'm asking ChatGPT of Bitcoin search trend. Doxing myself if a ChatGPT person is looking at my account. So ChatGPT came on here, right? Started 2023. Says we don't have it. There are a number of competitors. I'm looking at their charts and they're stupid. So possible this is lower because people use ChatGPT to search about Bitcoin, but it is low. It's quite a bit low. El Salvador, number 2. Interesting. Yeah, I should actually run that really quick. I don't know. Is it better? Has it been officially certified as better? I've still, I've had some luck with ChatGPT. Coding seems to be really good with them. Yeah, I mean, it is low. Should we do Ethereum for fun? Ethereum, extremely low. And if they, if you compared 2021, quite a bit different. 2017, I presume, quite a bit different. Let me pull up actually exchange volume. Do I have? Hold on. have to actually make this chart on the fly. Okay, so if you go back here, yeah. Again, all the reasons why I just don't see this like taking over. $1 billion Bitcoin is just insane. Would be amazing, but again, this is like Plan B promises to reach levels that they never reach, and then people lose their money. So by 2050, we don't even hit 25 million, and an exponential growth of Bitcoin would be 350 trillion. It just doesn't fit the economy. People can sort of talk all they want that Bitcoin's taking over the world tomorrow, but we have pretty good data on this. Also, another thing, I've told you guys this many times, but the difference between the power curve and stock to flow, which is a better version of Plan B's, right? His 2019 projections are still way too high because he's using gold and silver coefficients and platinum, palladium. Doesn't make any sense. And even here, right, you go out like even 5 years. This is me calculating this now. This is not him, but you just look at the Bitcoin stock to flow changes. You're 5x more with the stock to flow and like 10x more on the 2016, which is here. And if we did the power curve in 2016, it would be right on the money. So all reasons why I think the power curve is the best illustration of what Bitcoin is actually doing. Yeah, 100%. I think it's coming. It's got to come. I mean, it's the native unit. Bitcoins aren't even in the code, right? It's just Satoshis. 2.1 quadrillion Satoshis is the limit. %. Absolutely agree with this. Let me see if I can pull this up for you guys. All right. Try to do this quickly on the fly. Give you the exchange volume. Just give me a second. Sorry for the downtime. I don't know it. Again, this is where I probably need you guys to tell me. What does it mean? What is he saying? Should I chat GPT it? Is this some sort of a net present value of a future expected price? I disagree with this, whatever this is. Yeah, but it would also be chaos, right? Like, come back to me, Gio, on this point because I want to answer it. But looking at this, again, there's just the whole system would collapse. This is the system. This is the core of the system. And this is even just the dollar. We still have yen, still have the yuan, still have Korean won. Every single country has a real-time gross settlement network, just like Bitcoin. In the US, it's called Fedwire. It's just not, it's impossible economically to put all of that value into Bitcoin. If you want to see fees explode, they would explode, and just the chain would be congested. It just wouldn't work. Maybe. Yeah, it's incredible. It's super bullish, right? I mean, it makes us like, I'm just super happy about that fact. Okay, let me, really quick, I'm going to get it. Get the volume with trailing day, trailing 30 days. Just 1 second. Sorry for the downtime. I'm trying to make this exchange chart with volume data that I haven't used in a long time. What the F? All right, this needs to be B. All right. I'm coming back to you. Not bullish enough. Yes, I know. All right, good to go. I think it's good to go. Ah, I gotta update it there too. It's another reason I don't have too many things live on the site. Still gotta update. Okay. So anyway, again, it's not happening. Like, just take over the financial system tomorrow, next week, next month. Stock to flow does give us $1 billion Bitcoin on this chart. Again, these are actually power curves, but they're really more based on Bitcoin's halving, right? Which is an exponential function of negative 16% a year, but it's with a shock, as you see, right? So it's kind of a weird way to do a power curve. And as Giovanni likes to say, it's not scale invariant. With this beautiful curve, we can show, at any time, a change in time will yield a certain change in price. And just to be clear again, the power curve, you can see it on my site. It is a 12.7% increase in time will double the price. So you can see that here. Increase in time to double will be 12.7% of the life of Bitcoin. So right now, 12.7% equals something like 700 days. It's a little bit more at this moment because that's as of March of last year. %. I mean, I don't think I'm being Pollyannish or anything, and by saying, you know, if you go back and look at this chart, like, whoops, sorry, this is in gold, it's 2, or even this chart, people were so bearish here, and even here, like, look at the, all right, this is multiples of market cap over the miner revenue. So as we were here in the summer, okay, the price was 120K. Here we go, August 13th, 123K. And then we started to dip. People are so bearish. And we're still at like just great levels, but not topping levels. And now this is sort of the boom we needed. This is going to get to the 9. I'm almost sure of it. Still getting this volume chart together for you, but it's coming in a second. Okay. Let me know if you want to see anything else. I'm going to just see if I can update this API because this one is an automatic. And I will show you this chart. Sorry, the downtime. This one will be good, as Geo requested. By the way, tell me about this. Should I chat GPT it? What does it mean? Doesn't make any sense. Purchasing power parity, by the way. There's this Polish, German, I don't know, or maybe just German, French, lives in Poland. I really like his stuff. I've shown you guys him, Michael Uray, I believe. Not sure how to say his name. Very good charts. This guy. So he says a lot that he's not a fan of purchasing power parity. I agree. And there was a conference in Kyiv in Ukraine where Neil Ferguson, who I do like, was talking a lot about how, you know, it's not. People are trying to be really straightforward. Okay, Russia continues to attack us every day. There's drone attacks, whatever. Not just, of course, in Ukraine, which is getting hit the hardest always for 3.5 years, but you know, Russia's turned into a war economy, and their real GDP, or not real, but let's just say their nominal USD GDP is 2 trillion. But Russia likes to say that it's 8 trillion. And Ferguson was using these numbers, which I actually completely disagree with. I mean, you're seeing Russians with huge lines. They can't even get gasoline right now from what Ukraine is doing. But I believe it was Anders Aslund, who's a pretty good Swedish commentator, old fella, and he stood up and he's like, I refuse to believe in purchasing power parity ever since the economists were telling us that East Germany was richer than West Germany. Because purchasing power parity is just, it's like an economist's wet dream. Like you're taking every basket of goods that you can think of and you're acting like, oh, okay, well, it's cheaper here to make stuff, so it must be that TVs are cheaper somehow, or food is definitely cheaper, where you don't think about availability or, you know, production capacity. It's just a complete blunt instrument. So with Russia saying that they actually have $8 trillion of GDP, although it's something to absolutely take seriously, you can really sort of go crazy there. So anyway, Michael says that a lot. I agree with it. And I would say whatever this is about Bitcoin's purchasing power being 43 million today, it's not correct. I'll use it. So what I have for you, man, getting me coffee, right? Wasn't that you that said that one time? Or was that Roman? Okay, I'm running this script finally. Hold on. This should be running every day. I have no idea why it's not. All right, I'm using ChatGPT. What is it called? All right. ChatGPT says it can't find it. Let me look for Google. Gemini has it. Okay. It's a hypothetical calculation. It's global wealth at 900 trillion divided by Bitcoin's fixed supply. Let me show you guys again why that's incorrect. What the F? Why isn't this updating? Broke somehow? Anyway, let me put the balance sheet on. Shown you guys this before. I'm really bad with names, so you guys will know even probably before me, but whoever it was that came up with this global balance sheet, you still have to put things in terms of assets and liabilities, right? So assets here are positive. Liabilities are negative, which is a typical thing. Liabilities and equity. Equity is on the other side of the balance sheet. Okay, so here's public equity, financial debt, which should be counted, even if this is debt that financial systems are in. Of course, deposits are a huge debt, but that's not a typical debt, so it's not included. Household debt, corporate debt, government debt. All right, roughly, by my count, there, silver should not be there. All right, so we're at 200 and, I'm already forgetting the value. Sorry. 127, 70, 44. Yeah, 444. So it's half. It's not 900 trillion. Is the value, first of all. Global debt plus global equity markets, 450 trillion. Okay. So if you just put Bitcoin, gold, and silver, it's very small slivers on the asset side of these equations. The money supply as well is our asset. So when we hold deposits in all these banks and stuff, it's there. And then non-monetary assets is just the difference. So this is how it should be counted. I'll just find it here to show you the actual tweet. This is just a friendly critique of whoever did it. Jesse Myers. I mean, he's on the right track, but it's just not. It's not. You can't count them all up. It's totally fine to make these distinctions, right? And he's actually even got sort of assets, left-hand side of the balance sheet, equities, and debt on the right-hand side. Money is a weird one because it's most deposits go into other people's debt, so you don't want to double count that. That's why I have it that's why I have it here on the asset side. But anyway, the point is, he counts up a quadrillion dollars. I don't think that's correct. And in fact, I think it's precisely half would be the value at the moment, about 500 billion. So can you just take a look at any one of these things? I mean, for people to say that Bitcoin is just going to $1 billion, I mean, it's got to fight this. Look at this is just the stock market. I know it's weird because it's negative, but assets equals debt plus equity. This is equity, global equity. Of course, this is not all global equity. This is publicly traded equity, but it's going to have to do for the illustration. 50% loss of global equity value, Aaron. Global financial crisis. Now we're at 127 trillion. So financial debt, household debt, corporate debt, government debt, that's all you count up. You just count up the financialization of the balance sheet on one side, and then all the other derivatives or real assets on this side. They're pretty close to these numbers. This is IMF data. The only thing that would really throw this way off would be counting derivatives. And derivatives are weird. It's hard to get a handle on it because a lot of what you see in the derivative markets might not ever be fully actualized. And some of that, maybe even a lot of that, is already included in these numbers. So I wouldn't expect the BIS data to be much different than what I have here. The conclusion is absolutely the same. Like, I could make a chart like this, which is very good, right? It shows you the little boxes. You see how the slice of Bitcoin is just so small. Right? Conclusion of, you can barely see Bitcoin on this chart as an asset. Even if you just compared Bitcoin to the stock market, right? This is as of June. I could update this probably through August, not September. But yeah, it's gonna be a bloodbath at some point, but it's not going to like, even if we have a 50% drop in the stock market. First of all, what do you guys think? Bitcoin has never been through a serious financial crisis like this. This was a 50% fall. It's going to be very interesting to see what Bitcoin actually does in that environment. I think I'm going to have to do spot Bitcoin tomorrow on tomorrow's stream, because unless I can find it quickly, I might actually be able to find it right here. My functions aren't working. APIs to get exchange data. Hello, Rich. No, it does. You're right. You're right. But the type of crisis, I guess I should just say it that way. The type of crisis was a very, they learned a lot more. They papered over a lot more. I mean, look at the value of, we had this drop, right? This was the start of it. So that's a big drop, 15% drop, right? 90 to 70. But then it's like, vroom. So they're like, they knew what to do in these situations, which is just to print money, liquidity, new facilities, all the rest. They didn't know, nobody knew what they were doing here as far as how overlevered they were, how that was all going to come home to roost. It's funny how debt remains too, right? Equity goes away quite easily, but debt usually remains. About corporate debt. Had a bit of a fall. So, long and short, I would say, yeah. Wow, I bet that was something. I mean, it seems like the last 15 years has been just everybody preparing for another one. A lot of newsletters saying another one's happening around the corner. Doesn't mean it might not happen like very soon, but Yeah, I wonder what you think about how the sort of Wall Street / government financialization bailout process is now, if it's much more robust. Again, I'm not saying that's a good thing, but if they're just going to really turn on the money printer again. All right, trying this one more time. See if I can get you guys at least the exchange data updated. I got to change my API with this one. Did you guys see the South Park with the ChatGPT business ideas? It's pretty good. Mm. Do you think that we could have another 50% drop in the global equity markets? Even here was a big drop. This was well after COVID. Oh, I said the word. Gonna get censored now. 126 down to, yeah, it's a 25% drop right here. It's pretty big. Seems like there's so much fear, uncertainty, doubt right now. The money printers are going to be locked and loaded. Go back to this one. If I can find it. And I can't. Anyway, the Fed has room. The central bank has much less proportion of bonds now than it did before. I just showed this one. All right, did you work? You still didn't work, did you? Ah, you did work. But did you update? No. Too bad. I'm going to get you the exchange volume tomorrow. I only have it from end of July, and I can't update it right now on my APIs. Anyway. Another reason, I've said this before, right? I said this on Archie's show as well, is, as a percentage of total debt, the Fed was coming down, right? Here, we boomed in Bitcoin. It was coming down. Here, I mean, it was so early, it was going up, right? It was just Bitcoin's super small. World's not thinking about it. This was the first boom, of course, right there. Right there. So we're peaking, the first boom, second boom coming down, third boom going back up. Like really going back up. Again, I don't think it's related. I mean, I think As I've always said, 90% is just the power curve itself, the 4-year cycle itself. But if there is a crisis, probably the central bank just turns around again, buys more government bonds, prints a lot. This ratio changes. We go way back up as a percentage of the Fed holding total U.S. government debt. And that would portend an even higher Bitcoin price. Oh, I thought you were just joking. We'll read it another time. Anything else, guys? I'm getting a little bit long today. I have some other things, but should I do a poem? There's a lot of data, a lot of things to sort through. The best thing that we have, though, is the power curve, which I'm going to pull up again because I think I closed it. Good morning. Thank you. NGH. Yeah, so this, I talked about this earlier. We're way under trend again, which is still, I think if you're a gold bug and you're looking at your gains and not seriously considering revolving into Bitcoin, well, then you just haven't looked at this chart because Bitcoin is super cheap based on the trend, right? 30 ounces. This is down to the 30th, 40th percentile. I don't think we ever see this again. 10 ounces of gold per 1 Bitcoin, right? We hit 1 ounce all the way back in 2017. And then in this chart, I switch over to a dollar estimation based on $4,000 gold. So it's kind of weird, but let's switch over here now. Let's zoom it just like that. Okay, so if we assume $4,000 gold by the end of the year, you would get this based on the trend. Now, as you saw, getting back above even the trend seems pretty rich because gold is just so highly valued at the moment. But if Bitcoin gets back to its trend versus gold, that's 270K per Bitcoin. If it gets to the 7, or no, the 7 is below it, but the 8, 360, the 9, 500, it's rich. I think based on, we have done it. We're above the 9 in gold terms in 2017 and just barely in 2021. I kind of think we're not going to hit that this time. So let's say, but let's say even the 8, this is a quite bullish picture. By the end of the year, something like this, you get to the 8, there's your 360. This is exactly what the 9 would say in dollar terms. Also, it just drives you crazy, right? I mean, if you keep looking at these tweets every day, could be. But it's not. I mean, if we say today's price, it's still $3,800 gold right now. It'll just be a little bit lower, right? But we are still way cheap according to this power trend, which I believe in pretty strongly. At 30 ounces of gold, the trend is double. The trend is 60. that's why if you pull it into dollar terms, we move into this kind of magical place. We assume that we're going to get back to trend. Well, it's basically double what the dollar power trend is showing us, right? So by the end of the year, instead of 125 on the dollar trend, it's 270 here. So if we're at $3,800 gold, it's just a little bit lower. No apologies needed at all. Good morning, NYC. Good to see you. Yeah, I mean, I think if you go back to the old dollar, just keep our wits about us. Take off a lot of the noise. Even if you say this cycle is 6 months late, these are totally viable numbers, in my opinion, too. Then we could be 6 months late because of this sort of just long, protracted Wall Street bull. How do you know? Someone post something? That's quite big news. Something to watch. Thank you very much. I need to update some pay. I mean, it always gets updated, but I want to extend these charts a little bit, make some more tables. But yeah, this is where we are. And by the way, we're very close to passing this new milestone. Okay, this is as of June, and September. Actually, September wasn't released as of Friday. I don't know if it's released right now, but 2.4, 2.45 trillion. That's like right where we are right now. So it could be that it's another nice milestone. We actually pass all physical Benjamins and coins in circulation in the United States. That would be the last money stock, physical currency stock to pass cash. If we don't do it this month, there's a good chance we close next month ahead of it. So not nice, another little feather in Bitcoin's cap. Should I read something here, Gio? It's his picture. All right. It's hard to know. Yeah. It's an endless rabbit hole there. There certainly is a lot to point to him. The cryptography books that were, I guess, only in the Ghent library or Leuven. I always mess that up. Is it Leuven? It might be in Leuven. The Easter eggs that were pointing to a Benelux cryptographer. Why did you say this, though, Gio? Was this just something that you thought of lately? Or is there anything definitive that you saw as of late? It's crazy. A lot of people have said, and I agree, I mean, Bitcoin is just layers and layers and layers of things you can explore. We'll be curious if this power curve stays intact. It's never going to be on this trend. It's never getting to $1 billion by 10 years from now. But it could, maybe this black line could turn into an exponential curve. We've talked about that a lot. But that's going to be at a way different slope than this green line, which just assumes an exponential curve all the time when it clearly hasn't hit an exponential, hasn't even hit the trend line in exponential since 2022, April, on the way down. All right, guys. I will do a chart on exchange volume. I still need to find better derivative volume as well for Bitcoin, but for sure on chain, I will get to you tomorrow. Or not on a chain really, but exchange volume, spot. That as well, we can see how that has fared around the tops. Thank you for joining today. Hope everybody has a good Monday. Stay sane. Thank you for the good comments. Thank you for the interaction as always. Appreciate it, guys. If you want to drop anything, value for value, no subscriptions. BTC Pay is right here. Thank you all. Thank you, Daniel. Take care, guys.